Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabanzo, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show. We cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and always hit them. And folks, we got a very serious show for you guys. Before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Folks, we're in a very serious moment right now. And some people are acting like as if it's not a real thing, but it's a real thing. The NBA is having some serious challenges with its viewership and its product. It's some serious challenges. And I was thinking about this a few hours ago, and I was saying to myself that the modern day man could possibly destroy the NBA. Let me just expand on that thought. The modern day young man is in the process of ruining the NBA, which really says a lot about the modern man today. It really does. You look at generations in the past, how they were able to move society forward. In the case of the NBA, move the NBA forward, really push the league forward. But what we're witnessing in the NBA today is a total regression. Total regression. Players don't care. It's all about the money. Fans are an afterthought. And the league is actually diminishing under our... If you look at the generations before, you look at the Dr. J's, you look at the Larry Birds and the Magic Johnsons who propelled the league forward. You look at the Michael Jordans who took the league into a totally different stratosphere. Then you had the Kobe's, the Vince Carters, the LeBrons, the Dwayne Wades. These guys kept the NBA at a certain level based off of the work that their predecessors did. But now we've reached a new era where we're witnessing a decline. And all of these younger guys cannot carry the league. Now, some of y'all are like, well, it's because of the NBA and how it's marketing the product. That's true. That's true. But it also speaks to the fabric of the players. Something in them just is not resonating with fans. And a lot of them don't feel this righteous indignation within themselves to feel like it's their responsibility to push the league forward. They don't feel that way. They don't. It's just kind of this laissez-faire attitude. And it's the reason why you see viewership plummeting. So what happened? Yesterday, I came across a very, very interesting video of Nick Wright on the House of Straws. And he was talking about a bunch of things, but he was talking about the decline in viewership and the lack of interest in the NBA. And as I was listening to Nick Wright, he went out there and said he said some things that I think NBA Commissioner Adam Silver needs to take very, very seriously. So what we want to do is we want to play what Nick Wright's serious warning that he sent to the NBA and the commissioner, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to Nick right here.
I'm thinking about this. There are a variety of ways to go. You came out and you said the NBA, trouble, man, trouble ahead. You got to do something. Now, yeah, it's interesting because they've signed this huge deal. They've gotten the bag. They've gotten the $76 billion, unless, I don't know, some regulatory agency says that they've got an issue with Warner Brothers. I don't think that will happen. So they have the money. Adam Silver has done what he should do. You're sounding the alarm, though, that this is a little tenuous. I think it's really interesting that you were sounding that alarm, Nick, because you're somebody who talks about sports and has finger on the pulse of what people are into. Are you detecting a bit of a slide of the NBA from the national conversation? Is that rooted a bit in what you're saying?
So a few things led to it. One of them was my own lack of excitement. I was like, oh, that's a problem. It's like NBA season was opening night. And I was like, like I cared, but I wasn't. In the NBA, for almost my whole life, the NBA was my clear number one. I think a lot of people, still associate me more with the NBA than the NFL because they got to know me because of my LeBron takes on Cowherd. And so like that was a concern, but the other two things are just obvious to me. And it was so annoying because these self-important Celtic fans and media and bloggers were like, oh, the Celtics are so good. Nick Wright wants to change rules. Boston folks, I honest to God, do not give a shit about if you guys win the next 3 titles. I had a position years ago that the Celtics I thought were a bit of a, Danny Ainge was running a bit of hope-based Ponzi scheme, and was always, and so I made the point that they had not had the success that I thought people thought they would have, and they won the title. And so, years later, so bully for them. It's nothing to do with Boston. It's a very obvious point that I made sitting on stage at a Sloan Analytics conference to Daryl Morey 6 years ago, which was, I saw this train coming down the tracks. I was like, hey, obviously threes are worth more than two. And you are figuring out, and it's just going to snowball, that there's probably no upper bound to how many threes you should shoot. That is the right way to win. Your job, the coach's job, is to win. However, the reason you want to be the coach or the GM is because those jobs pay millions of dollars. And those jobs pay millions of dollars while the coach and the GM of an ultimate Frisbee team pay nothing because the NBA is a good television product. And I'm here to tell you 100 threes a game is a bad television product. What do you do? And Daryl said, honestly, not my job to worry about that. My job's to win. It's the league's job. If they need to change the rules, change the rules. And I'm here to tell you, better fucking change the rules. Because it is no different than if midway through last season, the Eagles, instead of going into a spiral, had got the tush push to where instead of it being an automatic 1.5 yards, it was an automatic 4 yards. And so they ran it every play of the game.
It's not football anymore.
It would be up to the league to snap change the rules. And if they didn't, it's like, well, whatever. And then at the beginning of this year, half the league's offense was the tush push. You got to snap change rules. And when you have incentivized an athlete as dynamic and explosive as Anthony Edwards, start shooting a dozen threes a game, you're going to turn off your audience. Because at its core, what makes the NBA, every sport has its own thing that makes it special. And the NBA, the best athletes in the world. That's if the league has a tagline, best athletes in the world. And that means dunking on people. That means that a style, and where everyone doesn't play the exact same style. It's just bad for TV. And so that's one major concern that I said, if Adam Silver needs to be a wartime consigliere and take a page out of baseball's book. I don't care how intermittently unpopular this is. We are drastically changing the rules because just like in baseball, the smart thing was the shift and this and that and all that. And he's like, well, okay, great. The fans don't like it. It's bad for the TV product. We are the entertainment industry. So we're going to change the rules. So that's what I think it's obvious.
So you heard what Nick had to say. Now, he didn't just talk about the issues with the NBA. He also gave some possible solutions and proposals of how to fix the game. So towards the tail end of the interview, he brought up some particular rule changes that he thinks could solve the problem. And I think that one of these ideas that Nick proposed, I thought was absolutely brilliant. Brilliant. So what we want to do is I want to play this proposal in terms of a rule change that Nick Wright proposed, and then want to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what Nick Wright had to say here.
There are a few drastic changes they could make. So the one everybody says is eliminate the corner three, have the arc be a true arc. Yeah. I don't think that's a far enough measure. There's the one I said on the pod, which I sure as hell would like to see him try. I don't know. It's the simplest thing because the obvious one is change the scoring from 3s and 2s to 4s and 3s. That instantly fixes it. But A, people hate math, and B, it ruins the record books. So it's not going to happen. making dunks worth 3 as well is a interesting way to try to split it. And the other one is, listen, do whatever you want, but just so you know, every team is capped at 15 shots a game that count for 3 points. So once you know what I mean, do it as fast, however you want to do it. But just so you know, you are maxed out at, so it's not like the points won't count anymore, but there'll be 2s. Like you're capped.
So you heard what Nick Wright had to say. He proposed a cap on the 3-point shot. And I think that's brilliant. Now, he said he picked the number 15 out of the thin air. But there's an interesting, that 15 is a very, very interesting number. Let me give you guys some data here. Through the decades, let me tell you what teams were attempting from 3-point shooting over the decades. In the 80s, teams were attempting 3.5 threes a game. In the 90s, teams were attempting 11.4. In the 2000s, teams were attempting 15.7. In the 2010s, 23.1. And then now, in the modern era, in the 2020s, 35 a game. Let's go back and look at the eras where teams were attempting about 11 to 15 threes a game. The 90s was the golden era. In the 2000s, the NBA was still very popular, and they were attempting about 15.7. I think we need to pay close attention to that number, because that tells me that number is the right balance. Teams should be attempting around 15 threes a game. The 98 Bulls were attempting 14.1. To put that into context, Anthony Edwards is attempting about 11 by himself. That's disgraceful. That's disgraceful. We've done shows about this where I said it is not fun to watch a game where teams are shooting around 70 threes a game. That is not enjoyable basketball. And what happened is you got a lot of nerds that came into the NBA that are not business people. This is the problem. You got a lot of smart people that don't own any businesses. So they came into the NBA and they're like, well, you know what? We need to really look at the mathematics and go through the calculus of all of this. And let's see, okay, what's the best way for us to win NBA games? We'll take a lot of trades. We got trades and my trades worth more than 2s and blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, I understand that. But there's something you need to bear in mind. You have a spectator sport. They don't watch NBA in a classroom. It's a recreational sport. People watch for enjoyment, for leisure, to get away from their problems, not to sit there and be bored. So they took out the entertainment aspect, talking about we got to win games because people think that people go to NBA games to solve some math equation. We don't go watch NBA games because we want to go to school or watch a course. We're watching it for entertainment. We don't want to think, we want to be entertained. And if you remove the entertainment factor out of it, it's no longer fun. The NBA is a product you're selling, and they're making the product unwatchable. And they think they're doing something positive because we're intellectualizing the game. It's smarter. We're smarter. It's like, that's not the point. That's not the point. The goal is to entertain people. And the product isn't entertaining the way it's being played. So I like his 15 3-point shot cap on a game. I like that. I think 20 is okay. 20. That's 5 threes a quarter. If you want, you can take all 20 in the fourth quarter. If you want, you can take all 20 in the first quarter. If you want, you can take 5 a quarter. It's up to you. But I like that. So we get the 3 out of the game. And this is something that Kevin Garnett pointed out. He said, when we were playing in the NBA, we had 3-point specialists. So when we ran a play for that guy, we knew we wanted a 3. It wasn't just, okay, we're going to shoot 3s every time down the court. That's just madness. It is madness. So mathematically, it makes sense. But the problem is you're not selling math books. You're selling a product that's meant to entertain people. And Adam Silver seems to be totally tone deaf to all of this. I don't know how. We even put up a poll on our channel 2 days ago. And I asked the following question to the audience that was centered on this very thing, which was, look, does the NBA need to make some rule changes? 18 hours ago, excuse me. Out of the 6,500 voters, 88% of them said yes. 88% of these voters said yes. And the poll generated over 300 comments. 300 comments. So there is a problem. There is a problem. At first, it was the fans complaining about it. But now when you have big voices in media actually coming out there and saying something, you need to pay close attention to it. It's unwatchable. Unwatchable. I just think I should say this as a parting shot on the way out. This is the cupcake era. The era that most likely will probably ruin the NBA. The cupcake era. The greatest era ever is the one that may be responsible for the decline of the entire sport. What a clown show era this is. What a clown show era. I had one jigaboo on Instagram message me because we did a video about players getting salty. He was like, what are you talking about? Steve Kerr can never land in this NBA. I'm like, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? I said, players today are not as more athletic, more physically gifted and all of that stuff. And he brought out Steve Kerr. As if to say what? They don't have spot up 3-point shooters in the, like, what are we talking about? So even when you listen to these guys reasoning, you're better off having a conversation with a box of crayons. You'll be able to gain, you might as well have a conversation with a wall. You probably hear something more sensible come out of the wall than listen to one of these guys talk. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. These are my thoughts. And one last thing I got to say, that this is totally off base. Totally off base. Shout out to my New Yorkers in the building. Shout out to Ari Spears. He's a hardcore New Yorker. Son, your list was trash on Vlad. I just got to throw this out. This ain't got nothing to do with nothing. Your top 20 rappers listed are better than Kendrick Lamar is trash, B. Cannabis is better than you smoking something hot. He's more lyrical. And you need to stop with that. I was feeling you with some of them. Cannabis is better than Kendrick. Man, you better stop that now. I just had to throw that out. Something on my mind. I'm going to catch y'all in the next one. I'm out. Peace.